Good evening and welcome to the Buyer's Market. I'm Darren Ravel of the Action Network. We missed you last week, but we are back with a great show this week. I am very excited to get into all topics around this hot memorabilia market. First things first, if you retweet the Action Network, tweet Action Network HQ, it's pinned to the profile. You are eligible to win a Michael Jordan card poster, which is pretty cool. We got the biggest size available. If you're following the Action Network and you retweet that, you are eligible to win. We'll have the winner by the end of the show. Last night, a 1986-87 Michael Jordan Fleer card sold for $420,000 at Heritage Auctions. The previous record was a signed Jordan card, rookie, for $125,000 on May 13th. Various different records depending on graders, $97,000, $100,000. But I gotta tell you, I was completely shocked by that $420,000 number. So tonight on the show, we have Peter Steinberg of SGC. Hi, I'm doing a show, Rye. Can you close the door? How seamless was that? So tonight on the show, we have Peter Steinberg of SGC, a grading company that graded that $420,000 card. It was not only a 10, it was a pristine 10. Spencer, I'm doing a show. Can we
take a bath?
Yes, go take a bath.
No, I'm taking it with you.
Okay, all right. So, okay, can you close the door?
Only if I...
Okay, fine. Let's make a deal. Spence, close the door. So SGC graded that a pristine 10, the only one of their 86-87 Fleer cards that they graded a pristine 10. And that meant something to people. So we're going to have Peter Steinberg of SGC on to talk about what it meant for the company. And then we're going to have Scott Greenberg of Star Stock. It basically, these guys are turning cards into a stock market, but in a real way. They own the cards, you buy the stock, and then things go up and down depending on how they play, how someone's injured, whether someone's in and out of the playoffs. And finally, we're going to have Kyle of the Wax Museum podcast. I got into it a little on Twitter with Kyle this week because there was this Luka Doncic card selling for $200-something thousand. Might be shill bid on eBay, who knows? But we just started talking about the fact that the card, the snippet that they took out of the card, was clearly a number 8, and Luka Doncic is 77. And he said, well, he wore an 88. So we're going to talk more on that and whether its use is acceptable as being described as worn. So now I want to bring in Peter Steinberg of SGC just to talk about last night. Peter, sitting where you are as the CEO of this company, what was it like just watching last night?
A lot of fun, very eventful. It was like watching the Super Bowl and your team just kind of kicks ass from start to finish of the game. It was pretty fantastic.
So tell me about the pristine grading. We know that PSA has a 1 to 10. They have a Gem Mint 10. Beckett has a pristine, I believe. When did this come in your life cycle, and what did you want it to mean?
So the pristine 10 was actually kind of brought into our grading scale a few years ago. And that grade is actually very important because, like all things grading, cards are a spectrum. It's very rare to have a card that is the exact same copy as the one next to it. And what really the reason that the pristine 10 is used and is an impactful grade is because not all 10s are created equal. The pristine 10 is basically reserved for the card that is the nicest of the nice 10s. In this specific case, that doesn't tell half the story because there's definitely a kind of a fun little tale behind this card.
All right, I'm the reporter. I got to ask you, what's the tale?
I was hoping you would. Okay, so we have at our company a receiving department. That department basically takes in all the mail and opens all our packages, all of our orders. That department uncovered an order that day of, it was like a partial set of 1986 Fleer cards. A lot of times when you get something as impactful as this card, it's usually out of like an order that is kind of a heavy hitter. You know, you have 9 Jordans in a row, followed by 3 Nolan Ryan rookies, and a few 33 Gaudy Babe Ruths.
Right, a guy who's putting in, he'll basically turn around with $1 million worth of stuff.
Yes, a lot of the time that is the case. We don't always know the story. We just have to kind of grade the cards as unbiasedly as possible. But in this case, this card was surrounded by a lot of modest friends. I mean, it was pretty special to see, an 86 Fleer set that came in where I would say anywhere between probably, I don't know, 60 and 80% of the cards are off-centered, like all 86 Fleer sets seem to come. What was really kind of funny is that the head of my receiving department actually came to me and said, we got an 86 Fleer set and it has a Jordan that's really, really nice. And I'm kind of embarrassed to say I didn't even take the time to get out of my chair and look at it. And the reason for that is because our receiving team, everyone in our building knows cards, but they're not experts. They don't have that trained eye. And I think that I assumed that, they're looking at an 8 that they think is a 10.
They
like
didn't
a lot of
know what
people
they
do.
were talking about. They're in the receiving department, not the grading department.
To some extent. And actually what happened is the card took the normal path that orders take, which is basically they kind of get in line to be seen by the graders. I can tell you that any other $420,000 card is treated a little differently than all other orders, but this card, the value wasn't there just yet.
Okay. So then you obviously see it. What is then the next rule in terms of how is a pristine then agreed upon? Is there a powwow? Does there have to be 5 of 7 graders say yes? How does it work?
Right. So I think that when you get into these technicalities like 5 of 7 graders, or we need at least 2/3 opinions in one way, you run into issues because we're humans and humans don't debate in that fashion. This isn't a courtroom. It's basically a conversation on what the proper grade of this item is. So what had happened is the graders received the set, and when they got to that Jordan card, it was pretty fantastic what took place. Our head grader has been in our grading room for over 20 years, which is just something that not too many other companies can say. And he took a look at that card and was just blown away, not just by the condition of the card, but the originality of the card. In today's hobby, which is to some extent unfortunate, alterations are really playing a big part. And I think no matter where you stand on that kind of controversial issue, which is alterations, what is altered, I think originality just means more desirability to anyone. And this card just screamed the originality. I mean, we had, in addition to fantastic provenance of where it came from, the card just, it's got the most beautiful rough cut, just like they came out of the packs. And it's literally one of a kind. Our head grader says, I've seen thousands. This is the best one. And at that time, because of COVID, we were actually working in shifts. So not all graders were in the grading room at that time. And he had got on the phone and he had told, kind of the second in command, you better check this thing out when you come in here. And later that night, the head grader got a call. I just saw this thing. Holy, what, and it kind of went from there.
All right. I now have to do my homework, which is the part of the interview where if I don't ask this question, my boss, Chad Millman, would probably fire me. So we know this is big for marketing of SGC. It clearly puts you in a place where, as PSA and Beckett rise, and are you third in the marketplace, would you say?
I would disagree with that wholeheartedly. We have the biggest card. We have the biggest card out there, the most iconic basketball card ever. And we have officially over 4x'd the competition. So no, I would disagree with that.
Okay. So do you know, or was this part of an SGC plan to buy this card or have any interest in this card?
Great question. Okay. So I'll tell you.
I had to do it.
I'm happy it did. I'll tell you everything about it. So this card, every instinct in our bodies, as kind of the authority in this industry, is to stray away from that pristine grade. Because remember, this card is 35 years old. It's cardboard. There's got to be something there to stop us from assigning that grade. So I think the natural tendency is to point to the grade of gem mint, which is basically your normal 10. What happened here is we just put everything together, and as much as we kind of fought back against that idea, the stars were just aligning to such an extent where we were grading the card incorrectly if we did not assign it the pristine grade. It was a unicorn. They don't come like this. Original, it doesn't make sense. And I think because of that, we really had our hands tied almost to go with pristine rather than the other way
But
around.
I'm talking about last night. Like, do you know who bought it? Do you know
I don't know who bought it. I do know people, by the way, just because, this card was in Heritage Auctions. This wasn't like an under the table deal
Correct.
by any means. So, people had reached out to me just like, what do you think of this? Like, oh my God, how did you give this thing a pristine? This card, doesn't come pristine. And I told them basically the story that I've told you, which is what happened. I don't know who was bidding on it. I was watching very closely to see kind of, I guess the progress of the card. And I'm also not an auction expert. Like, I don't have a ton of experience in that side of the industry. But it seemed like quite a few people were in on it, because I did know one individual who really wanted to own this thing, and he kind of fell out, and we thought, hey, maybe that's it. Maybe the card halts right here. And that was at like 280,000 or something like that. So it was a great night. I mean, we've worked so hard to get to this point, and I think really what this card was more than anything else is a review on the progress we've made. It's very difficult to gauge the market. You could read Instagram comments and you'll have people that say, SGC should just go away, and you'll have people that say we're number one and we'll always be number one.
So I guess the last question from me to you is, so what did this mean? What will this mean to your business?
That's hard to say. I mean, I think what it means is that there are a lot of people, for whatever reason, who just do not give the respect that is deserved to this company that's been in business for over 20 years, to a body of work that I think anyone would be proud to stand behind. And I think that really what it was a way to show the entire industry as a whole that whether it's everyone or some people or most people or whoever, we are the authority when it comes to the actual grading of cards, which is what we are paid to do and our competition's paid to do. If you care about the grade, you better be buying SGC, because we're the ones you trust.
Peter, thanks so much for joining us. Congratulations. It was awesome just to watch and reload last night as an auction geek. It was great. So congratulations. And I'm sure we'll talk to you down the road.
I will very much look forward to it, Darren. Thanks so much for having me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Peter Steinberg of SGC, the CEO, on their big card last night that went for $420,000. Once again, retweet the tweet on Action Network HQ. It's pinned there. And if you retweet that and follow the Action Network, you're eligible to win a Michael Jordan card, 86-87 Fleer poster, which we'll give away by the end of the show. Next up, I have Scott Greenberg of Star Stock. The idea of taking cards and then creating a real market out of it is something that is very intriguing to me, not physically owning a card. And I think these guys have done it relatively quickly and efficiently, and the marketplace is enjoying it. So I wanted to bring in Scott. Scott, are you there? I don't see him. Ev, do you see him? He's coming up. I kind of see him. We'll give him a second. There's Scott. Scott, what's up?
What's going on?
Thanks for getting in. Glad you're still supporting the New York Knicks. Many of us aren't any longer.
Always.
Um, tell me the idea. Listen, I love the idea of, like, everyone keeps saying, like, in this marketplace, it's all about like the player as the IPO, where individual things that happen on the field, on the court, they then reflect itself in the market of something that you own. So it wasn't necessarily a new idea. I think you guys just have effectively figured it out. So how did it all come together?
Yeah, so grew up collecting basically players of my favorite teams: Knicks, Yankees, Giants, Carmelo Anthony. I'm a big Syracuse fan. And so, when I got back into the hobby about 2, 3 years ago, I was just fascinated with the shift to more of like an investor focused hobby. And so when I started buying up cards on eBay, some of the other markets, what really frustrated me most was two things. Couldn't invest in players at scale, take weeks or months to buy hundreds or thousands of cards for one player. And the biggest thing too was you couldn't buy players instantaneously. It took so long for you to actually purchase a card. And so coming from someone that's, sets their fantasy football lineup 2 minutes before kickoff or places a sports bet from their phone, I just didn't understand it. And so what we've done basically is we take shipping out of play. And so we store all of the cards in a centralized vault. And so we have our sellers, bulk shipping us cards. And so what that does is that enables our users to instantly trade the ownership of these cards while they remain in the vault. And it allows them to buy at scale. Because if you want to buy 1,000 Patrick Mahomes cards, and get to that ultimate point that you want to get to.
So how does it actually work? I come into Star Stock. I believe in someone, in Patrick Mahomes. How am I entering in my term of sale?
Yeah, so if you're coming in, if you're coming in from the sell side, you're shipping your cards into us. We process them, we photograph them. If they're an ungraded card, we categorize them into 3 different groups based on their conditioning, and then we upload them into your collection. And then from there, you're able to list that card onto the market within seconds.
And then if I want to buy a specific player, like I want to buy into what you've amassed, how does that work?
Come onto the site, search your player. You'll click on the player. It'll take you to your options. You'll pull the card that you want. We show you pricing history, so you can make sure that you're buying at a fair price. And you're 2 clicks away from owning that player. And as soon as you click confirm, that player is instantly now in your collection. And so you can even list that card for sale 10 seconds later if you want.
Got it. So the idea that we've all talked about is one of the reasons why cards are going nuts is that people have found that there really is a connection between card and performance. So what have you seen? I'll throw it out and you tell me what's happened. So Bol obviously fell really late, went exceedingly later than people thought in the draft. And then had a amazing couple games. The hype was nuts on Twitter. Did that then reflect itself in the card market?
So I got cut out a little bit towards the end there, Darren, but I think you're talking about Bol. And so he was actually one of the first players on our market where we really got to see that live, change in price, because the first 2 months we were live, actually, we were without sports. And so it actually took place during a preseason event, since he was injured for most of the season. I think it was 3rd week of July around, scored 16 points. I think he had 6 blocks or something. And it was very clear that if he stays healthy, he could be a really, really good player for the Nuggets. And so his price shot up, I think went from $5 to $15 to $20, in a couple of days. I think since then it's rebounded a little bit. But that was probably one of our first pricing movements we saw on the site, which was really exciting.
And then I'm going to take you right away to Zion, right? Because I've seen it, at least individually on eBay, where, there in a month, there hasn't been a $20,000 plus sale after 14 of them. Now, some people can say, well, that's because we haven't posted it. but like, well, you're not posting it because we're not, there's not momentum there. So have you seen on Zion the momentum kind of being taken away with the Pelicans out of the playoffs and perhaps even Ja Morant a little bit with the Grizzlies out?
Absolutely. Yeah. Once the eyes are off them, the prices dip a little bit. It's pretty normal. I expect once we get to, November, as we start to get excited for the new season again, we'll start to see those prices rise. But absolutely, we've seen it for a ton of players. John, Zion are two of the, more high profile ones. People had high expectations for the Pelicans. We're really excited about them potentially making it into the playoffs. And so we've definitely see Zion's prices drop over the past couple of weeks. I think another factor that really comes into play there as well is the rise of football, and with football coming back. And so the schedule is a little bit different this year. And so, I think we're seeing, at least we're seeing it on our site, a lot more attention is moving to football. And as there's less teams around in the NBA playoffs now, it seems like basketball is starting to trickle down a little bit.
Scott Greenberg, hey, thanks so much for joining us. I'm sure that as things go down, we'll be able to get kind of the temperature of the players in the moment going up and down, and you'll be a good resource for us. So thanks for joining us on the Buyer's Market, Scott.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Darren. Appreciate it.
All right. So that's Scott Greenberg, CEO of Star Stock. You can get in on one last chance to get in on our contest tonight. Retweet the Action Network HQ's tweet that's pinned to the top of the profile, and you can win a Jordan poster. Okay. So our final move of the day, our final guest is Kyle from Wax Museum Podcast. I had posted a tweet, was it yesterday? I don't even know at this point, talking about the Luka Doncic card, whether the $230,000 bid was real or not. It wasn't material. It was more about whether the signature that is on the Panini card is really Luka's, which has been up for debate, and even more kind of the jersey itself, because the picture of the jersey, the cutout of the jersey, it looks like it's an 8 and Luka Doncic is 77. So let's bring in Kyle. Kyle, thanks for joining us here. I appreciate you being available for us at the last minute. I need to talk to you about the number specifically, since that bothered me. In 2003, I did a story on the rookie premiere, the NFL rookie premiere, and guys were putting their feet in their shoes, wiggling it around, and then saying, "Oh, so you could say we wore them." The rookie premiere in the NBA seems to be very similar. So what do you know about the rookie premiere? Is it the same thing where they're trying on a bunch of jerseys?
Yeah, actually, it's very similar. Sometimes they'll have like a weekend, and then now Panini, I believe, actually hosts it themselves. And I've talked to a former Panini employee, and I just said, look, hey, how many jerseys are these guys wearing? And he couldn't tell me an exact number, and he thinks it changes by the year, but he guessed between 10 and 15, and he said it might be different now. Based off of what we're seeing, I would assume that it's higher.
Yeah, so that's my concern. Okay, my concern as someone who's outside the industry, I'm just concerned about, and someone who's in the industry and certainly a collector, I'm just concerned about credibility. Let's forget about the autograph, which has been debated.
Right.
Now you have something that is, again, you see that could only be an 8. Okay.
Right.
And so it's like it's not a DALLAS. It's not, It can only be an 8. So I think someone would come up and say that, and that's like weird. And then on the back it says it's worn, and people say,
Right.
hey, but it's not or it's worn or used or whatever. Like, for me, shouldn't a card of any magnitude, whether Luka Doncic is a bust or not, be real in terms of how it was really used?
Well, yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, we would like that. And you mentioned earlier, I mean, here's a card that Upper Deck did in 2004, and they're very specific on the back. I don't, you probably won't be able to see it, but they say it's from the rookie photo shoot.
Yeah, see
Um,
that's what I want. Now, the question is, Ryan, I don't know if people would care. Remember that the Jordan exquisite card that sold for like $900,000 or whatever. I mean, that had Jordan's it wasn't even a Bulls jersey, it was a Wizards jersey. So
yeah,
so do people care? Because I care, but it seems like people don't. Do people in the industry care whether it's used or not, when it was used, or whatever?
yes and no. It's a very divided issue. A lot of people, it's a logistics thing. So you have the Panini gets their jerseys from the NBA. They have a partnership with the NBA. Well, the NBA also has a partnership with MyGray. So when Panini's trying to get some of these jerseys, they don't get a lot of them until the end of the year because a lot of these teams have to keep these, even though some players will wear two a game, they might wear those two for 10 or 15 games, and they have to keep these in case they get blood on them or something else. And then the NBA is giving some of them the MyGray as well. So in a perfect world, collectors want that. They want the game worn jerseys. And even, we have a lot of the veteran stuff like this here. It mentions it's game worn, which that's nice. But a lot of collectors realize it's a logistics issue. And also continuity is really big with collectors. So at some point, National Treasures has become the RPA to get. And people put a lot of value in continuity. So it just depends on what they value, one thing over the other, because there are cards that come out later in the year that have game worn stuff, but it's not been deemed the card.
Do
So a
you
lot of
personally do you personally believe that, hey, why not? Panini should be a little bit more clear on the back?
I wish they would be. But we could talk a lot about this. There's a lot of things I wish Panini would do. In fact, some of it I've taken on myself because they're not even tracking the patches that they put in these. Take a picture of all of them, and I'm doing that on a website myself. I've actually tracked down 58 of the 99 Luca RPAs.
You mean you could put together the jersey, so to speak, or what's the point of tracking?
Well, a lot of people are in the past have swapped some of the patches in order to create a more valuable card. And when you're talking about, some of these cards at the time might have been 15,000, and if it's a multicolor patch, that might, multiply it by so much. So there was a lot of fraud in the industry. So a lot of people kept saying, well, someone needs to do this. Someone needs to do this. Well, I had the summer off one summer and I did it.
Well, I'm glad that you express at least the same kind of concern and like for accountability here. Hopefully, I can get Panini on in future shows. But it just, to me, when I saw the price got me, right? So then I was watching it, and then just the position of the patch and showing that that is clearly an 8. And the
Right.
reason you say is because they had him wear 88, right? Because of
Right.
that gives you the maximum number of colors, so to speak.
Right. So, when they first started putting jerseys into cards, I'd heard numbers, and, it just depends because some guys are bigger than others. I've heard that they could get 2,000 pieces out of a jersey. Well, now the patch windows are getting bigger and bigger. So, and you can see that here over time. This one's smaller. They're getting bigger. People want bigger patches. So now they're not getting 2,000, and especially not the prime patch pieces. So, if you can put 88 on the front and the back of the jersey, and even the nameplate, sometimes they'll put rookies or NBA draft or something like that. That produces a lot more patches, and it saves them some money in the long run and lets them make more cards.
Yeah, well, in 2003, when I put this on Outside the Line and had Outside the Lines and people saw what Byron Leftwich was doing and what they were asking Byron Leftwich to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's heartbreaking for the people that spent money on this,
Yeah.
realizing that it's event worn. There are those, even though you say that like collectors, and especially the ones who are spending the money now, know what they are, there are people who don't. And that's
Right.
where it's unfair, and it's not a net positive for the hobby.
Right. Well, even the LeBron James that you've looked at recently, that screen printed, his RPA exquisite is event worn, and it states it on the back. So my only hope is that people, I want everyone to know, but if you're spending $1 million on a card, I would hope you would know that.
There you go. Hey, thanks so much, Kyle. I appreciate it. Wax Museum podcast. When can people listen to it?
So every Thursday, I release a new episode. You can find it on all of the big podcast platforms.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
All right. Thanks, Darren.
All right. We are concluding our show. And as always, we will give you the winner. The winner is Cody Vincent at Cody, Codey Vincent. Contact my producer, Evan. You guys will be in touch, and we will get you that Michael Jordan 86-87 Fleer rookie poster. No, we're not that rich yet. But one day we might be giving away Jordan cards. This is a great show. Thanks so much to Peter Steinberg of SGC, Scott Greenberg of Star Stock, and Kyle from the Wax Museum podcast. I'm the Action Network's Darren Ravel. For Evan Abrams, Scott Miller, and Chad Millman, and everyone at the Action Network, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.